And welcome to Nurses and Hypochondriacs, Gezus Putnam.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I had to come to the Rancho Mirage Library, which is one of my offices here, to record because my parents have invaded my vacation home, which is fine because it's technically their home. But yeah, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. So
yeah, I'm up here in Koreatown, and
my God, it's amazing.
That's my roof. And let's see, where's that phone? So like that's approximately where the Hollywood sign's at.
Oh my gosh.
That's approximately where
the observatory is.
The observatory is.
Yes. I'm actually at an observatory. There's an observatory here at the Rancho Mirage Library, which is super awesome. But so tell us about yourself. I met you, or where I started following you was on TikTok, right? And you were doing these wacky videos, and some of them were very interesting because you were going through the streets of Los Angeles and capturing the homeless crisis that's been going on that the politicians turn a blind eye to. I mean, so do you want to talk about yourself first and how you got into doing these TikTok videos and how now you're doing super duper or superhuman things?
I'm doing super. No, I'm trying not to kill myself is what I'm trying to do. So here's what happened. So I've lived in my neighborhood since 2007 with my significant other. And we used to know our homeless guy. His name was Michael. He opened the door for you at 7-Eleven. You would give him money and he'd always say, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back. I get my veteran money. I'll pay you back on Wednesday. And he'd always say that, you knew you weren't getting paid. But I knew him. I knew his name. And then, I don't know, was it 2015? I started seeing like new people coming into the neighborhood. I'm like, where are all these homeless people coming from? I was really like it was like an absurd amount of new homeless people coming into my neighborhood, going to the 7-Eleven. It would piss off Michael. Unfortunately, Michael is no longer with us. He passed away several years ago. But, that was a functioning homeless, person with mental health. He was able to feed himself. He was able to find the drugs that he needed to self-soothe. He was able to, but when he would go into shelters, he would be taken advantage of, right? So he'd always stayed out on the street, and that was fine with me. That was his decision. But 15, 16, all of a sudden I'm going home, which is in Whittier, and I'm not seeing just like tents in Los Angeles. I'm seeing them in Whittier so on Whittier Boulevard, there's this median of grass that goes along Whittier Boulevard that separates from this industrial park area. And it's really nice. And the tree that the city was founded around is there, the oak tree. But in 2017, it was completely filled with homeless tents, and that was crazy. And then I'm like, I've got to start documenting this because, you see the news, but they don't talk about the real problems on the news. They talk about the stuff that They talk about the stuff that'll get you mad at me or me mad at you or some divisive issue, right? So I started documenting this, and what really got me like my first quote unquote viral video on TikTok was literally 12 seconds of the 101 freeway at Sunset just completely the embankment just completely filled with garbage. If you remember those days,
Yeah,
if
I
you
know.
went there. So that was the video that went with I think something like 500,000 views. And then I got one of the people I went to college with. She was homeless. She became homeless, and the reason why she became homeless is because she needed surgery, and she knew if she came to California that our healthcare system. By the way, California has a fantastic healthcare system if you've got no money.
Right. If you've got no money, that's right. Because I work with that population. They
Right.
all get really amazing care.
When I got at my last job for Curative, which was a COVID-19 test company, I got Kaiser, and Kaiser would like nick after like many, yeah, because like I work in the entertainment industry, so like it's feast and famine. So I qualified for, because I made under 50 whatever $1,000 a year, I think it is. So I qualified, and the healthcare I got to see my doctor on a monthly basis. I got to and I wasn't nickel and dime for like any blood they wanted to take. I went to Kaiser, like, okay, we're charging you for the blood, we're charging you for this, we're charging you for that. And I'm just like, what the hell do I have insurance for if you're gonna charge me for everything? I mean, it's like $10 here, $10 there. You go to the physical therapist, and I'm like, well, I got this shoulder and I got this, and he's like, one thing at a time.
Yeah, one problem at a time, and then come back in another month, and then we'll take care of you. Yeah, I mean, I have patients. I work in mostly federally qualified clinics. Most of my patients are Medi-Cal. Sometimes I see them once a week just because they want to come in and see me. You know, I had someone hunt me down because I no longer work at one. I just work at them for short periods because I work for a locum tenens and I go to a bunch of them. But he hunted me down. He's like, they told me you didn't work there anymore, and he just wants me to see his kid. He goes, I'll go to anywhere where you're working, no matter how far it is. And but yeah, I mean, you know, you could do pretty much whatever you want. And my patients, in my opinion, got really good care. So, but I've had Kaiser before and I got shitty care. You know, here I am. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner.
I've been nurse practitioner. I've got a couple prescriptions I need you to fill after we're done.
Well, you're too old for me. 18 and below, but yeah, or 21 and below actually. But yeah, so you were saying with the homeless crisis, so you started to see it grow and grow and grow. I've seen it grow and grow, and I do you remember when Mayor Reardon was in office?
Yes.
Right, some time ago, the streets were clean.
Right.
And Mayor Richard Reardon, he was a huge philanthropist. Okay, he started the pantry. Which, have you been to the pantry in downtown LA, like right across from Staples? Well, it's no longer Staples.
So yeah, I it's no longer open 24/7.
The pantry.
I started going in there because I'm like, oh my God, I haven't been here since a kid, blah, blah, blah. I went in there during COVID, and they're like, please come back. Nobody comes in here right now. You know, they just
so sad. Yeah.
It's so sad. I mean, where else can you get like a $10 coffee?
Oh my God. Yeah. And amazing pancakes. But one of the biggest things that Mayor Reardon did with the pantry, because he's an entrepreneur, philanthropist, is he rehabilitated ex-cons. So a lot of the people who were working at the pantry were ex-cons. You know, did you know that?
No, I was totally unaware of that.
Yeah. So I didn't know until years ago, a guy I was dating, he was like, let's go to the pantry. My dad used to bring me here as a kid, and we went late one night because it used to be open 24 hours. And he knew a lot of these ex-cons. And he told me, he goes, this is such a great place. And Mayor Richard Reardon set this up to rehabilitate these people. And these people are so amazing. Like he goes, they would just go above and beyond to serve you, you know, and which was great. We don't see that anymore. Nobody gives a shit, you know. The homeless population is out of control. One of the reasons is due to Purdue Pharma and their opiate crisis that they may go out of control. You know,
Right.
I've attended many, you know, Zocalo Public Square used to do a lot of these, or they still do. They're coming back now since COVID, public forums to talk about stuff like this. And unfortunately, all they do is talk. And all these politicians do is talk, and nobody really does anything. Yes, they get housing, but a lot of these homeless people don't want to be in homes. I mean, they'll leave. They want the freedom of being outdoors and doing whatever they want.
Here's the problem. So if they do get permanent housing, they are kicked out. They're kicked out for 8 hours. You can't come back in for 8 hours because you got to go out and look for your job. You have to give up your drugs. So you can't get permanent housing until you've given up your drugs. I don't remember the state. It's one of the poor states. It's either Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, or Missouri, one of those 4 states, where they just say, hey, look, you're homeless. We're giving you a house. We don't care if you have a drug problem. Once those people go into permanent housing and they get seen on a regular basis by a professional therapist, as well as group therapy, you almost have a 90% success rate of getting people back into
Society.
Now, obviously, with the population that we have, with approximately in California, there are approximately 200,000 homeless. That's probably a low count, but probably 200,000 homeless within the state. We have about 25% to 30% of the entire homeless population of the United States. Los Angeles has the largest homeless encampment / open air drug city in the United States, maybe in the United States. The problem is not housing. The problem is the amount of red tape it costs to build any type of significant housing within the state of California. So, for example, if I wanted to open a homeless shelter, if I wanted to build a tiny home village, you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 7 years. And during that time, anybody, for any reason, because of the environmental regulations, can file an environmental claim, which means that you have to go through the county government, and even the county government will not accept state regulated stuff. They'll run you through their little ringer for, in my opinion, just to get money out of it to their friends or whomever.
Right.
And you end up spending $600,000 per unit. I mean, I don't know if you know this, we built about 1,150 units, and it cost the city and county of Los Angeles $600,000 per unit, approximately. The most expensive one was $800,000 or almost $900,000 per unit.
Wow.
They're trying to get it down to $400,000 per unit, but will they? I don't know.
I think that's crazy. And going back to what you said about these politicians, I sent you those links about Jose Huizar, correct?
Right.
About Oh my God. I've been
He's,
watching him for quite a while. Go ahead.
he was my city councilman.
He was mine too, because I grew up in Eagle Rock. So it's District 14. So he covered Highland Park, Eagle Rock, Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, and I forget, there's probably another one in there that I'm forgetting. So I was following him for quite a while. I think he got into office in 2005, and I was like, who is this guy? And how do you get into office? Because they don't teach kids in school like, hey, you can run for office and you could really help this city and be a part of it. They never teach you that. They don't teach you that in college. Like, I did take a class in grad school at UCLA on having to do with politics and policies and stuff like that. I forget what it was called. And you had to go visit congressmen and stuff like that. But I didn't go do that assignment. I did something else, but people who did actually got awards and whatever. But I was like, did they really even do anything? Do they really listen to you? They're like, oh, this is part of my job and I have to sit here and listen and take these students in, right? So I was watching Huizar, and I attended a couple rallies where he was speaking. One was on the 4th of July that he would do this picnic in Eagle Rock Park. And I believe it was in 2017 that I went there. And that's when a lot of these problems started to happen with the homeless population, right? Mm-hmm. And he was because he couldn't run again. He was getting his wife to run, right? Who is also an attorney. And I thought that was weird. And already he had been outed because he had an affair with one of his coworkers or something, and he was saying, oh well, it was consensual, and your wife knew about it and now she's running for your seat. Who would want to vote for her? I mean, right. And then you start seeing the corruption, and the feds went in and raided his home, and he has this fake persona that he portrays as, oh, I'm such a great dad. I have 4 kids that go to Catholic school and I live in Boyle Heights and this is my wife, and that's his whole persona. And he's so fake when he talks. He talks like a car. People love fakery. Don't you see that? Like, people love these politicians who talk fake. I mean, Gil Garcetti is another one of them. Whatever happened to Gil Garcetti? Is he still alive? We don't see him anymore. The mayor, I used to see him
Eric
every once in a while.
Gil's
Eric Garcetti, Gil is the father. That's right. Eric Garcetti.
He lives 6 blocks that way from where I live. I protested in front of the mayor's house for my friend who's homeless. She's no longer homeless anymore. And if you want to follow her, she's lovely, lovely Ann on Instagram. But anyway, we protested in front of his house. In front of the mayor's house, and I believe because of COVID, not much longer after that, she has an apartment in like Wilmington.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Wilmington is an up and coming area. I can kind of see it. It's it's pretty affordable still. It's by the water. Kind of cool. I worked at a clinic out there for a doctor for a few days. It's an interesting area, kind of dangerous, they told me. So
it's probably not the best.
Not the best. I mean, I walked around by myself. I was okay, but they told me to be careful. But I walk in South Central all the time. When I work down there, I walk in quite interesting places all the time. But getting back to Huizar and his buddy Eric. Okay, so you saw that article I sent you where it said that he was there was a Chinese developer, and the Chinese developer was giving him over like $500,000 under the table. And he also gave him $500,000 to shut up his coworker that was accusing him of philandering or having an affair, in order for these buildings to go up in Los Angeles. And he'd go to like Las Vegas. It's a crazy story. I mean, one of the articles I think came out in March of 2022 that I was reading in the LA Times. And I was like, this is insane. How did people allow this to keep going on? Like going to Vegas, being a high roller, really? With the money, with people, this is our tax paying money.
You have to remember that the vast majority of people pay absolutely no attention aside from what they see on TV, and all they look for is that D, or did I get that the right way? I don't know. All they look for is the D or the R in front of the name and check, and don't even bother to see what that person's like. They don't bother. I'll give you an example. When I post and say I, uh, without saying like I was an independent or a Republican, I mean a Republic, like I'm a registered Democrat. I'm running as an independent, and they're asking, and people would say, "Why are you running as an independent? Why not run as a one or the other?" I said, "Those people are the problem.
Right.
It
They are.
costs me, if you want to be on the ballot, it's $1,000 just to try and get on the ballot. After you get that $1,000 in, then you got to get a bunch of signatures. I don't know. I don't know. I think it was like, I can't remember how many signatures, to be honest with you. And those are just like gates that keep you from competing. And then look what they did in Pennsylvania. Was it Pennsylvania? I think it was Pennsylvania or Florida, where they delisted the Green Party off the ballot. They delisted them, or disqualified them for like technical, but like they didn't have enough signatures, or some signatures were fraudulent, but they proved independently, and so I know that I'm trying to put this into good words.
No, but I hear what you're saying. People will just vote either. If they've always voted Democrat, they're always going to vote Democrat. If they always voted Republican, they're always going to. They don't care about the person. They don't care about the views. Yeah. They only care about what party you're in. I mean, so it's really crazy. So you keep voting in these corrupt people over and over again that are doing nothing but draining the city's money. I mean,
for example, Jimmy crazy. Gomez during the who's the guy who's currently in my district, the congressman in my district. I called him during COVID and say, "Hey man, I need help with blah blah blah." That I didn't get a call back. I didn't get nothing. I got nothing from my representative, nothing from his assistants, nothing, and that made me mad that I couldn't call on my federal guy to get me some help during the pandemic, right? Now, I'm sure he's a nice guy. He just had a kid, but he went to school. He went to Harvard international. He's got a degree in international affairs from Harvard. This guy went to school to become a career politician. He is just a yes man.
Yep.
For the Democratic Party.
Right.
He's not going to make waves. He's not going to make any decisions. He's going to put up all the bills that will check all the right boxes for the, Democratic Party. I support Black Lives Matter. I support.
Yeah. He's just going to go around with his toilet paper, he's going to be like, go ahead, bend down. Here, hold on.
Right. So we can no longer afford to have people who just do what they're told.
I'm so over it. I'm so over it. I mean, I contacted last year. I was working at one of the migrant children's shelters in Pomona, and I contacted the woman who was in charge of it. She's the first district. I forget her name. She used to be Obama's labor secretary. Okay.
Right.
She's I forget her name, but at this point, her name is kind of nothing because she's, again, another yes person. She was going around, oh, look at what I'm doing, and these poor kids, and where are these kids actually coming from, and whatever happened to them, nobody knows. I mean, it was such a shit show. They had all these federal people getting federal grants, and it was just it was just like a fish market of money, and it was so sad because they used children to front this. Children coming from God knows where, although all these kids knew where they were going, they all had, they all were very smart, knew where they were going and who was going to pick them up. So it was a bizarre event.
Well, what's the reason why they're coming here is because we're supporting narco terrorism down there, because we want the natural resources from South America. So the more people you have migrating to this country to come in and take the jobs at picking the fields. I mean, if you come to Los Angeles, there's no such thing as a lazy Mexican or a lazy Latino. You go to Alvarado and 6th Street, they've got their stuff that they've gotten from the swap meet, wherever. Now they're selling it on the side, or they go to the 99-cent store and get their stuff and they put it on their blanket, or they got tacos, or they got churros, or they got fresh orange juice, or they're making pupusas, or they're doing something.
Right. But let's talk about that, because I recently, so I needed to get a deep clean in my townhome, and I needed to get my carpets cleaned. Okay. So I hired through a service for both. The people that came to clean my home, I told them, I speak Spanish. I said, limpia las ventanas. So the woman kind of didn't understand what I was saying, right? All of a sudden, and I saw that they were taking their time, it was just weird. I've had my home cleaned before. This was bizarre. And all of a sudden, there was 15 minutes left of time that they had. And she brings me this man on the phone, and the man goes, "Oh, hey, it's taking us longer than we expected to clean your home. Give us another $80. Or if you go through the company, they're going to charge you $100. I go, "Excuse me, I've already prepaid. And it was supposed to be this, but now you're giving me this. What's going on?" Well, these people were Guatemalan, because I asked the woman, I go, "Ventanas no hablas español?" And she goes, "Ventrías." Oh, ventrías. Well, that's how you say windows in the Guatemalan dialect.
Okay.
And so I was like, that's interesting. So the next day comes the carpet guys. So I had to fire one because, again, he was upcharging me. So another one came, and he did the same thing. He upcharged me. And I go, "Excuse me, where are you from?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm from Guatemala." I go, "When did you get here?" He's like, "Oh, I've only been here like 3 months." So they're being con artists too. That's not right, though. I mean,
well, no, I mean,
you gotta watch these con artists now.
Here's the truth. Carpet cleaning, any type of carpet cleaning is a con artist.
It's a con.
It's a con. It doesn't, I mean, it's just easier for them to get cheap labor and exploit them and exploit you, and they're not going to say anything, like, because they just got a job here. Another thing is, like, you have known gang members making settling down here, and now you have these American citizens who have ties to MS-13 and all this stuff. So, there's like this almost natural cross-border importation of, South American criminals into the United States.
Well, at the shelter, which was only supposed to be a kids shelter, there was several of these criminals coming in posing as children. So posing as, they had to be 17, under 18 years of age. So, the ICE was coming in the next day and weaning them out because they were lying, and I just wanted to finish up on my point on how I contacted that councilwoman that for the 1st district, because I was complaining about what was going on, because I got fired within 7 days, in 2 weeks, because I asked too many questions, and they put me.
They don't want you to ask questions.
They don't want you to ask questions. They told you that before. They're like, "We don't want you to take pictures. We don't want you to ask questions." They were screaming at people. I was being treated like I was in prison. And people were like, oh, we were in the Texas one. All you do is just sit and read a book. Shh, shh, don't say anything. And I was like, what is I mean, so I went ahead and I reported it to the woman. I go, by the way, these federal contracted people that you hired who have no pediatric experience, by the way, this is going on. You know, I have 25 years of experience. I was put in the lice area, you know, and I kept saying, hey, I could do other stuff. I could, you know, really help out in these areas. And they kept saying no, like they didn't give a shit about what my knowledge base was. All they wanted me to do was sit in one area, you know, which was stupid. I mean, the pay was good, but I
Right.
mean, you're just like, really? You know,
Yeah.
after a while, it's really ridiculous. So, you know, so I didn't get a call from her. I guess she's too good, you know. I did get a call from her assistant, who is an attorney, you know, and she told me, she just listened. She's like, oh, oh, really? Oh, wow. Oh, really? Like that's how she was talking to me, okay, about this issue. And which they don't care, you know, all they cared about was that they had all their celebrities giving them money and doing a concert after. That's what they care about. They care about the PR and that's going on there, right?
Yeah.
So she told me, because then a lot of other nurses were emailing them, you know, she's like, why did you give our email to the nurses? Why did you tell them to email me? This is what she said. And I go, because you work for me, you are a public servant, and these are our complaints. And obviously, you don't give a shit. So why should we have you in office? Why? Why should we vote for you people? You know, because she's got ties with Obama and Biden. You know, she even said, like, I was reading her little bio, and she's like, I didn't want to run again, but they made me. You know, I guess I'm needed. You're an idiot. You know, there's so many more qualified. Yeah, I don't want to be an ageist, you know, but step down already. Look at all these amazing people that are younger who can really take over the city and make it better, but they don't want that.
No, there's definitely there's definitely no urgency to really solve any problems,
right?
Because you need those problems to point the finger at your opponent. Because, like, what are the Democrats are literally running, we're not the Republicans, and the Republicans run, we're not the Democrats,
right?
And then they put up there, well, for and they're what's the frustrating thing is they're the exact same party. They're just, playing their political role. It's all political theater. I mean, the Green New Deal, or the what did they just call it? The budget, the deficit or not the deficit, the whatever reduction act. That was a, they sent, you get tax incentives for green vehicles and building, they're going to build wind farms and solar farms. But in order to do any of that, they first have to license any amount of land that they give for solar farms or wind farms. First, they have to give that exact same amount of land to the fossil fuel industry. Okay. And they have to, and it's up to 10 million acres a year that they are allowed to give to wind farms and solar farms, but they also have to give that to fossil fuel for 10 years, right? For 10 years. Okay. Then with the new Medicare thing that they have, you don't start saving any money on any pills until 5 years from now. And I think they choose like 5 pills, and then they'll add like another 5, like 5 years later. So like, something like 30 years from now, you'll have like 30 different pills covered under this Medicare, or something absurd like that. And who does that help? There's like hundreds of thousands of pills. We just learned MAOIs are totally wrong. We're like, the science behind it is totally false. We just learned that, yet they're still handing them out like Tic
Right.
Tac.
And I'll tell you why. It's great that you brought that up. Okay. I have this theory. It's called all roads lead to Pfizer. So if you go to a federally qualified clinic that mostly sees Medi-Cal patients, these are mostly the places that I work. There's this form. It's called the PQH9 form. And it's a form that you have to evaluate teenagers to see if they have anxiety, depression, if they have suicidal ideation, right? But if you look at the fine print on the bottom of this form, it says it was created by Pfizer. Okay. Why? Because most of these antidepressant drugs and stuff are created by Pfizer. Pfizer has some type of partnership with them. Either they make them, either they bought out the companies that used to make these drugs, or they have formed a partnership. So that's my theory on all roads lead to Pfizer. So the California, they mandate that these federally qualified clinics, in order to get paid, in order to get whatever, I don't know how it exactly works, they have to use these forms with all their teen patients. Yeah. And it's like, I've debated this with nurse practitioners on a forum on Facebook, and they were all calling me out on it. They were just like, oh, that's not peer reviewed. And I go, most of these drugs are not peer reviewed. Most of these drugs that they use for teenagers have never been tested on teenagers. They've been tested on adults. And so they modify the dosage to give them to teenagers. That's all it is. They've never tested them on that. And a lot of people don't know that. I used to work for a pharmaceutical industry. I mean, a company. I used to work for AstraZeneca, and I know the tricks that they do. They love to mind control. They're like working for a cult, and it's like, you do as I say or else you're out. And again, I used to get in trouble there all the time. I was in principal's office all the time because I was questioning a lot of stuff. I was questioning the research that they gave. I was questioning everything, so they told me, they're like, hey, if you want to be winning in this game, don't question anything. Just do as you're told. Isn't that like from 1984, that book? Like,
I forget. I actually forget what the you will. I forget what it is.
I'm gonna go check it out right here at the library since I'm here. But yeah.
Now that you brought up teenagers and antidepressants, here's something that you need to know as a pediatric nurse practitioner. Social media is currently the number one cause of social anxiety in children 12 to 24.
Social media and them not sleeping. Yes. We had prior to this episode, I had a pediatrician on. He does hypnotherapy on kids. So we had a pretty detailed discussion on that. And it's really interesting. If anybody listening to this episode, you haven't heard it, it's really great. Dr. Rand Anbar, he's amazing. He practices out of La Jolla. And he's awesome. And he said it too. It's like, we keep giving these kids pills, instead of just really working on them. And a lot of the things that's wrong is empowerment as well. These kids are so disempowered. I mean, I come from what, Generation X, your Generation X as well, right? And okay, we were like the latchkey generation and blah, blah, blah. But we learned a lot. We learned how to survive. These kids don't know how to survive, a lot of them. I mean, they kind of do, but I asked, a lot of them don't even know their parents' phone numbers. They don't even know where they live. They don't know their addresses. It's like I said, if one of my patients tells me in a certain age range where they live and what their telephone number is, I'll give them $100. Nobody can tell me. I'll ask a 16-year-old, do you know your address? They don't know it.
That's the terrible thing about that is when you couple that with like social media, you find that teenage girls. Here, let me give you an example of why I want to keep going back to this, because I think it's like really, really important. The anxiety comes from them not actually, not being outside in the world playing, because in the 90s we had that thing where, everything's bad, everything's horrible, kids, blah, blah. It turns out it's safer for kids to go out and play today than it was when we were growing up. And
because there was Jeffrey Dahmer when we were growing up, and remember the other serial killer,
Night Stalker,
Richard Ramirez, and all
Richard Ramirez. But here's the thing: girls, especially girls, they'll befriend what they think is like a boy, online,
right? And it's
send him nudes. Turns out it'll be like an adult male, and what they'll do is then they will blackmail these young girls to continue sending them these salacious photos. And it's more common nowadays for a young girl to be blackmailed online by a stranger than going out and getting kidnapped if they go outside and play. We have this illusion. There's this illusion that because it's just on this phone right here,
it's safe.
That's safe and there's no danger. The fact that they're exposed to pornography at such a young age, because look at, if we wanted, you and I don't know if you did or not, but if I wanted to look at boobies,
Playgirl magazine, or
I had to go find a magazine somehow, or get
Uncle Jim's garage or something right. I mean, I spoke to someone. Yeah, I spoke to someone. There's a record store here in Palm Springs, and it's an old school record store. And I walked in, and there was a gentleman there who, I think he said he was an ex-police chief of Palm Springs in like the 80s or whatever. And there were many Playgirl magazines in the case. And I was like, oh my God, and I started talking about this with him. And of course he had a story of the first time, and he, agreed with me that these kids are now going on their phones, and their sex is now pornography. It is not the human body, and it's not a beautiful thing, I remember for myself when I started to see naked people, it was on playing cards, and so, like my parents used to play poker, and so it was a bunch of us kids in someone's poker room looking at these cards, and we'd be like, oh my God,
and the pinup girl cards.
So but nowadays, I ask these boys and females as well, like, how much porn are you watching? I can't say, are you watching porn? It's how much porn are you watching? And they'll tell me. Most of them are watching it every single day, couple hours. What does that do to your brain? Yeah, hours. Yeah.
So because of this, I think there's a lot of, I think that helps contribute to this gender issue, because I feel like if I'm a young woman and I'm watching pornography, which is, tailored towards guys, and I'm seeing why would I want, if that's, what's expected of me, why would I want to subject myself to that,
That's a great point.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I could see how, because here's the thing. I had several friends, three couples, and all three of their daughters, two daughters, one male, one boy, all of them were transgender. The young male, the young boy, he was just, I think he was just like picked on and didn't fit in anywhere because he said he was transgender, but I'd never seen a kid so obsessed with knives in my life. And like boy stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like boy stuff. So it was kind of like mixed signals. So I just kind of like, but the young girls One of them did transition, and she turned 18, and that's fine. But the other one, and from my not having kids, not in the situation, not dealing with it, just hearing what my friends, it really seemed to me like it was almost a form of, like if I was like, well, I don't know if I like boys. Well, you're probably transgender and you probably like girls, or you're probably like pansexual. None of these kids should know what any of that means, because they have no fucking idea what any of that means. They know what the words mean and they know what the definitions are, but they don't really know what that entails. And I see on social media, these kids, there were two girls in making these TikTok videos against each other, and the discussion was, this is not a lie, I'm not making this up, the difference between universal transgender pansexuality and omnigender transsexual sexuality. And I was just like,
yeah, what? Yeah.
I was like, what are you?
TikTok is it's like 100 million different opinions. That's what people don't understand. It's not like, where's the peer review there? Where's this? It's just these people, giving their opinions, which is great. Everybody's got the freedom, but it is,
these are like young kids.
Lot of confusion. Like, yeah, it is creating a lot of confusion. And I've told this on the show before. One of my friends, Bianca, she works at the transgender clinic at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And I followed several of her lectures. She's been on this show. And up until really, they're mostly about counseling, and talking about.
I don't like the counseling either, because the counseling that everybody was getting, none of the counseling seemed to put any negativity or look at like the downside of transitioning. Like I didn't.
No, they do at Children's Hospital, though. I mean,
I'm telling. I'm just
perspective.
Like
I know.
I'm just getting like it secondhand, right? I'm getting it.
Yeah, and it's true. A lot of these kids, I've had patients come in. I had a 16-year-old once, and she was learning how to transition online, and that's what a lot of them do. And I had to sit down with her, and I'm like, no. And I immediately called my friend, and I immediately was like, you need to go to children, because she was trying to get hormones and stuff. And so this is what a lot of them will do. And they all talk to each other, and there's Facebook groups on it. One of the biggest
makes me
problems,
mad
go ahead.
They say that you can transition back. I'm like, really?
No, you can't. I thought it's really
like, I thought this was like, this is what they are. This is who they are. This is who they know. But now you could just, I can go back now. I'm like, that is not.
If you talk to people who have transitioned and then go back, it is a very sad story. I'm going to try to find someone to be on this podcast to talk about that, because I think it's a great discussion. I've told this story before, where when I was in high school, there was no such thing as non-binary. There was no such thing as transitioning, it was just, we're exploring, and I would wear my dad's clothes to school, just because it was fashion. My parents were creative. They didn't care, and I was just exploring with, I cut all my hair off. I was in swim team. I did all these, I was in drama. I was a writer. I was in photography and stuff, but it was very experimental. I wasn't labeled. And fortunately now we have all these labels.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. So you're running for Congress.
I am running for Congress.
Okay. Which district, or how?
34th district.
Okay. Awesome. So we need to vote for you, everybody. And when is the elections? It's November
8th. So I'm a write-in candidate. So you have to write my name in.
All right.
And it's Jesus, Jesus, Putnam, Putn as in Nancy, M as in Mary. I'm going to be honest. I'm not under any illusions like I have like some sort of chance to win. But here's the thing.
You never know. I'm
going to be running these triathlons,
Yeah, talk about
For
the
the
triathlon. So you're running how many?
34.
That's awesome.
The reason why I'm looking at my watch is I have to finish mine today, and I have to I'm highlighting businesses. So this is a local business that I
Team
attend, and
Zero. I love that shirt. Yeah,
I
I want
bought
one.
I bought this shirt. They did not give it to me. They do not sponsor me. I don't have any sponsorships. You can't donate to me. There's no way of donating to me. I did want to have a charity come on and raise money for the charity, but this is Los Angeles, and somebody will tell you, yeah, I want to do that because they feel like, because later on they're like, I still want to be your friend, or maybe we'll have
Right.
something like later in the, so
You
I
should
know what
have
a
a
soft,
write-in. You should have
I
a
know what a
write-in.
soft no is.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I
should
mean?
have a you should have a write-in party like right the day before.
Right.
Maybe I'll help you put it together. I love doing like events.
That would be
So
fantastic.
so
Anybody
yeah,
who
maybe
would
we'll
like
talk
to,
about that. We'll talk about that. Like,
anybody who would like to help me with anything
yeah,
would be
maybe.
greatly appreciated.
I love to throw a party. Everybody knows that. My parties are great. Even when I've had like in-person podcasts, I always have
Yeah,
food. It's awesome. There's always goodie bags, giveaways.
I'm
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline.
I'm
But yeah,
down for
so
that.
did you do one triathlon already or are you doing Nautical
No, so
Malibu?
I was in the middle of doing my triathlon, and I was gonna like stop, do the interview with you, and then go back and continue riding because I got a lot of bike riding that I have to do, and then I
Yeah.
have to go run.
When's your
So far I've
first
only
try?
swim. I've ridden 6 miles, so I've got about, no, I've ridden more than 6 miles. I've ridden about 8 miles, so I've got about 19 to go,
Uh-huh.
and then I got to run, like literally run. So the total amount of mileage that I'm doing will end up being 34 miles. So I'm doing 34 triathlons, 34 miles long for the 34th district.
That's awesome.
And all I'm trying to do is highlight the fact that I'm in the bluest of blue states. I'm in the bluest of blue cities. And the it's not about Democrats. It's not about Republicans. It's about the wealthy elite and poor people. And
Right.
this is how the wealthy elite treat poor people. We saw them sent to whatever island, Martha's Vineyard,
Yeah.
and which is a sanctuary city. In my opinion, if you're going to be a sanctuary city, you should be ready to receive
People.
illegal immigrants.
Right.
You should be. You announced it. It's on your city website. Well, then you're like, you have a housing problem. You have plenty of houses. You have plenty of space around here. You can house 50. And so when they say like, well, you can handle it at the home, they couldn't handle 50, and we got thousands coming over the border, and
Right.
not even coming over, like on the other side, living in limbo or in
Yeah.
cages on our side, and everybody's looking the other way, like everything's all good. I'm
Yeah.
just
They're
here
watching
saying
Netflix.
they're liars. The
They are
Democratic
liars.
Party is liars.
They are
If they
liars.
really wanted change, under Obama, we would have had universal health care. We would have had Roe v. Wade would have been codified, and they didn't do any of that. Any of that with a supermajority. None of it.
Did you see?
Because
I'm gonna read you this real quick. I don't
okay.
mean to cut you off, but I think it goes back to your transgender questions. Okay, I just saw this on the it's called the Post Millennial. Breaking news. Newsom signs bill to allow minors from other states to receive medical gender transitions without parental consent. What is wrong with these people? Like, why would you do that? I don't understand. It doesn't seem, I don't get it.
That is
Minors
but
under the age of 18. I mean, their parents are still like, why?
I don't have
I mean,
kids.
I don't know. I don't
So
have kids
when
either.
I say that that's kind of not my fight, it's kind of not my fight because I don't have any dogs in the fight. At the exact same time, as someone who doesn't have children, as someone who has been told, uh, about pronouns and gender identity, and is, stuck his foot in his mouth with somebody who identified as non-binary, I'm afraid. I'm scared.
Yeah.
What is this going to do to this generation?
Right. That's what I'm concerned
That's
with.
what my fear is.
It's
What
the
are the
long term,
repercussions
right?
mentally down the line when Johnny or Kimmy decide to go back to being Billy and Billy and Ted? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, at
That's
this
my fear.
age from 11 to about 18, they're still exploring. There's this guy, Eric Erickson. He talks about that. He talks about it's perfectly normal to change your name if you want. I changed my name when I was in high school, and then I went back to being my adult name, my given name, Ursilia, you know. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But anyway, anything to wrap it all up? Anything you'd like closing remarks?
Um,
Vote for you. Maybe we'll talk about a write-in
yeah,
bar thing. That'll
right,
be fun.
right in for me. Look, if I can get 100, if I can get 100 people
Yeah.
on the ballot, that would make national news. So that's all I'm asking for is like 100 people in my district to vote for me. Now, here's the terrible thing. I'm horrible at promoting. So, it is what it is. But I'm going to be doing 34 of these. They're all going to be done live now that I have all the equipment and so just all I say is watch, follow.
Yeah.
And you don't have to vote for me, but you better find somebody who you're willing to vote for who is not going to use, you know, dark money, special interest money to get your vote. They can do it by raising money and highlighting the businesses in their community. And if they're not doing that, then they're not really working for the community. They're working for themselves.
Right. It's true.
That's the truth.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank you for having me.
Gezus Putnam. And I will add links to your TikTok and to your Instagram on the show notes. So
I'm going to try and make a TikTok or a video a day as to why you should vote for me.
Yeah.
So that's going to be on the agenda.
Awesome. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening, nurses and hypochondriacs. Till next time. That was fun.
Hey.
All right. Awesome.